Joining us right now, Peter Andersen, Chief Executive Investment Officer, Andersen Capital Management. This is north of Boston. Peter, this came up once today, and Paul's and my goal is to not be inflammatory. But if I see yields roll out globally, price down, yield up, 10-year, 30, 40-year maturities and all, it begins to have whispers of August of 1998. Is that on your mind?
Everything is always on my mind, Tom. And boy, you bring up that 1998. I was there too, and I try not to make that comparison. But you know, it's so tempting to look back at history and try to find a path to where we are. I mean, I think that's just human nature. So even though you can look back at 1998, I think there are other scenarios too that might just dispel that. So I look at history, but I also try to look forward and say, not that it's different this time, but gosh, you know, we've gotten into a lot of trouble sometimes thinking that things are going to go exactly the same way as they did in the past, and then we get very surprised, don't we?
Peter, I'd love to get the perspective of your experience in these markets with how to think about and how to invest in this new thing we're all trying to deal with, which is AI. How are you guys thinking about it as an investable opportunity, maybe even risk?
Yeah, so we have gone through a lot of gnashing of teeth, frankly, about AI. You know, when AI first came out, I got so transfixed on the narrative that the public was consuming, which is AI is going to replace the human brain. And so I went down that rabbit hole. And when I look back at that, it probably was the wrong thing to focus on because we've kind of moved on from that debate. But at the time, do you remember, we were all thinking that this was going to replace the human brain. And in my studies of that, I realized that we are so far away from doing that. We don't even understand how the human brain works. So how would we ever be able to model it and reproduce it in this enormous thing we call, you know, the massive computing, the physical computing? So I went down that rabbit hole. I'm out of that hole now. And what I have come to accept is that AI is, and pardon me for insulting all the AI aficionados out there, but in our opinion, AI is a work mule that does a lot of the low-level things that we all hate to do, and also can help us with certain experimental trials. And I'll get into that in a moment, but you know, I didn't want to be too long-winded about this, but I have gone through a lot of transformation, and now my conclusion is AI is real. It is not going to replace the human brain, and we can certainly use it for a lot of rote calculations. It's not going to replace Excel on our desktop, but it is going to be very, very helpful in a lot of things.
So on the flip side of that, Peter, there's some people are trying to, I guess, try to figure out winners and losers. And there was a period several months ago when, boy, a lot of these software stocks and software as a service type stocks, including Microsoft, were sold off hard here. How do you think about software here in a world of AI?
Oh, gosh. You know, I think it's just a massive learning curve everybody is on. Do you also remember that, you know, almost every industry for a while there was under enormous pressure because of the threat that AI was going to take it over? And the one that really stung for us, besides the one you mentioned, is cybersecurity. Do you remember that the cyber stocks were plummeting because people were thinking that AI was going to replace that function? And if anything, it's been the other thing, other side, which is this. AI is desperately needed now because the bad actors are also going to use the same tools that we use to protect ourselves. They get in the hands of the bad actors, and so we need to have even more aggressive protection against that. So ironically, companies like Palo Alto, which were under great stress, are now up, at some point, they're up over 100% this year to date.
Peter was going to play hockey at Northeastern, the most gorgeous ice rink in the world. Didn't work out, so he did physics. Then he went to Yale and did more physics. I mean, it's just too much. Pete Andersen here on the thermodynamics of AI. You know, there's Landauer's principle, the Boltzmann constant, and Kelvin and all that. Forget about the mathiness, Pete. What we instinctively know is if you have a data center in Ohio and you're creating all that data work, the heat has to dissipate. Do we
Yes.
understand the thermodynamics of our data centers we're building?
That is a very insightful question. We don't understand a lot of things about the data centers. And of course, the heat dissipation. I mean, there are some environmentalists that are saying that it actually has probably more significance in global warming, for instance, that it can raise the average temperature in that district. So those things are certainly worth looking at in some cases.
I mean,
But I will tell you this, Tom. One of the things that drove me crazy about this is when they were talking about the human brain. Remember, I was just mentioning that. When you think of it, the human brain, first off, these data centers, tons of energy are required to run an AI system, tons. And then you look at the human brain, and I don't know about you, but I can make some fairly good decisions just eating a peanut butter sandwich in terms of having enough energy to work through the first half of the day. The human brain only requires 15 watts, something of like a refrigerator light bulb. So that should show us alone that we're down the wrong path in emulating the human brain. But I've accepted that. And,
Right.
I've moved on and saying, okay, we're not doing that. We are developing something that will help us tremendously, but it's not going to replace human thought.
I mean, I got joules here. 2.87 times 10 to the minus 21 joules is a 1-bit sequence here. All you need to know is nobody has a clue, Paul, on this. No, the heat dissipation, like your air conditioner at home, Paul.
Yep.
Same thing.
Condensation.
Was that enough physics?
That's plenty of.
I'm getting the stare from Sweeney, folks. I get it's like there's the stare. Pete Andersen. Remember Sears and Zemansky, and you were like on chapter 20, and you're like, I'm never going to get through this. Got to go, Pete Andersen. Thank you so much, Andersen Capital Management. He read Sears and Zemansky cover to cover.
Good.
I just
Solid
blessed
work.
it. Solid work.